Hello, and thank you for tuning in to learn more about sororities at Tulane. My name is Liz Schaefer, and I serve as the Director of Fraternity and Sorority Programs. I'm proud to work with the 42% of full-time undergraduate students here who belong to one of our 24 Greek letter social organizations. Our department is part of the Division of Student Affairs, and our staff is dedicated to providing an exceptional fraternity and sorority experience to our students. To name just a few of the things we do, we provide training to chapter and council officers on issues of organizational management, work with national fraternity and sorority staff and local volunteers to support chapters, give guidance on program and event planning, and collaborate with various campus departments to provide resources and programming on topics such as violence prevention, health and wellness, recreation, and academic support to our students. In this tutorial, we will answer the questions we most commonly hear from parents of students who are considering joining a fraternity or sorority. Of course, if after viewing the tutorial you still have questions, please don't hesitate to contact our staff. Tulane has 12 sororities, each of which is affiliated with a national sorority. The university affiliate groups are called chapters, so you will hear us and your students refer to either their sorority or their chapter. All of these groups are grounded in values centered on sisterhood, scholarship, leadership, and service. It's important to note that these are all private organizations that have individual criteria for membership. The university has no control over these criteria or how the chapters apply them. Each sorority at Tulane belongs to a student-run, staff-advised governing council. The councils are made up of chapters that are similar in size and do similar activities. You can see on your screen the names of each of our sororities and the councils to which they belong. We have 2 multicultural sororities, which average in size at 9 members and belong to our Multicultural Greek Council, or MGC. We have 2 historically black sororities, which average 4 members and are part of our National Panhellenic Council, or NPHC. One of these has a joint charter with nearby Loyola University, meaning they also have members from that school. And finally, 8 sororities belong to our Panhellenic Council, sometimes called Panhell. These groups currently average in size at 184 members. 7 of the Panhellenic sororities have houses, all of which are owned and managed by either local alumni of the sorority or by the individual sorority's National Housing Corporation. While only a few women live in these houses, the so-called brothel law you may have heard of is a complete urban legend. The houses were all built as single-family homes and later converted for use by the sororities. So those that do have a live-in component only house 3 or 4 women. The only time a member may be required to live in the sorority house is if she eventually serves in a particular chapter office, such as president or treasurer. The sororities primarily use the houses as meeting spaces and a home away from home for their members. Many parents wonder about the time commitment that joining a sorority will bring. Like so many things in life, your daughter will get out of the sorority what she puts into it. If she chooses to get involved with committees and events early on, she will spend a bit more time. But on average, most new members should expect to spend 5 to 10 hours per week attending new member education sessions to learn about the organization's history, chapter business meetings, and sisterhood or social events. If your daughter is already involved in one or more other student organizations, her new sorority will view that as a benefit, not a hindrance. All our sororities consider academic achievement to be an essential part of membership. The average GPA of sorority members has been higher at Tulane than that of non-sorority members for at least the last 15 years, and the sororities compete fiercely with one another for the highest grades. You can view the GPA standings for each organization on our website, greek.tulane.edu, under the About Our Community heading. The costs of sorority membership are listed on your screen. They vary somewhat by council, and the variance is based upon a number of factors, including the size of the group, the number and type of activities they plan each year, and whether or not they have a house or sometimes provide meals for members. Regardless, it's important to note that the first semester of membership is more expensive because of one-time new member fees. Your daughter will also pay a Greek membership fee to the university each semester. If she joins a Panhellenic Council organization, that fee will be included in the dues she pays to her sorority. But if she joins an NPHC or multicultural sorority, her university accounts receivable will be charged. The Greek fee covers things in 3 basic categories: educational programming for our officers and members, social and community programming, and neighborhood relations. As you're probably aware, the university sets and maintains eligibility requirements of students who wish to join a fraternity or sorority. The requirements are straightforward and are listed on your screen. A couple of notes, though. First is that we hold hard and fast to the minimum requirements and do not make exceptions to them. That means that if your daughter earns a 2.499 GPA and not a 2.5, she will not be able to participate. It also means, though, that if she completes only 10 hours at Tulane in the first semester, but the university accepted 3 advanced placement credits, she will be able to participate because she'll have those 12 hours. We take a hard line on the requirements because all our sororities have those same minimum requirements. If we were to make an exception and allow a student to participate in Panhellenic recruitment, even though her GPA doesn't meet the minimum, none of the sororities would be allowed by their national organization to invite her to membership. So that means we don't make exceptions under any circumstances. Secondly, all potential new members this year must complete 3 educational requirements. They're listed on your screen, and one of them is an online other drugs module. The other 2 are sexual violence prevention programming and our Greek weekend keynote speaker, and there are makeup options available for those. Students have been emailed that information, but if your student has not yet completed those requirements and has questions, please encourage her to contact our graduate assistants at greek@tulane.edu. MGC and NPHC sororities bring in new members through a process called membership intake. Typically in early February, the organizations will host individual informational meetings to help prospective members learn about the programs and activities they do. Following the informational, the sororities will accept membership applications and vote on which applicants to invite to membership. Generally, MGC organizations do not require applicants to obtain recommendation letters from graduate or alumni members, but NPHC organizations generally do require recommendations yet. We do not know yet which, if any, of the MGC or NPHC organizations will conduct intake in the spring, but once we have that information, it will be posted on our website. Now we're going to spend some time talking about the recruitment process used by our Panhellenic Council, as it's the largest and most visible. After many years of holding recruitment over 2 weekends with a week of classes in between them, we decided this year to take advantage of the way dates fall on the calendar and hold the entire process in the week before classes begin. While we know some students aren't thrilled about coming back early from winter break, we believe the advantages of completing recruitment before classes start far outweigh any negatives. Potential new members, who are primarily first-year students but do include some upperclasswomen and transfers, must register for recruitment online. The registration deadline is Tuesday, January 3rd at 5 p.m. Central Time, and we will not accept late registrations. The next deadline is Friday, January 6th at 5 p.m. Any academic issues that are preventing a student from participating must be resolved by that time. Examples of these issues are incomplete grades from the first semester, an appeal to a professor for a higher grade, or incoming transfer credit. If your student has a concern about a grade, she should contact her professor as soon as that grade is posted. On Monday, January 9th, also at 5 p.m., the residence halls will open for women participating in recruitment. We ask that students respect this opening time, as our colleagues in Housing and Residence Life have graciously agreed to partner with us and open the halls early. If your daughter will return to campus earlier than 5 p.m., both the Lavin Burnick Center and the library, as well as many other campus buildings, will be open, and she's welcome to hang out in any of those. All recruitment registrants will be charged $80 to move back into their rooms early, as well as $100 in order to access dining services throughout the days of recruitment. These fees are completely non-refundable, even if your daughter withdraws or is released from recruitment. And then finally, on Tuesday, January 10th, the entire process begins with our recruitment kickoff or orientation sessions. Kickoff sessions are held by recruitment counselor group, and your daughter will receive an email over winter break letting her know which group she's assigned to. If by any chance you were only able to make a plane reservation that will get your daughter here after noon, please have her contact our staff as soon as possible so we can place her in a group with a later kickoff time. It's important for parents to understand the overall concepts of Panhellenic recruitment. The goal of the National Panhellenic Conference is to achieve parity among all organizations on a given campus. Therefore, recruitment works because it's based on the idea that each of our 8 sororities is a completely viable option for women who want to join. Your daughter should begin the process with an open mind about joining any of the organizations that may invite her to membership, not with her heart set on just one or two. Each day of recruitment, both the potential members, who we call PNMs, and the sororities rank their preferences. The PNMs will receive a ranking sheet and list the organizations they are most interested in returning to. At the same time, the sororities will vote and determine which PNMs they will invite back. Sororities that have historically been listed by more women as a top preference are allowed to invite fewer women back to successive rounds. Our staff, with the assistance of a volunteer recruitment specialist from the National Panhellenic Conference, cross-references the PNM's preferences with the sororities' invitations to produce an individual schedule for each PNM for each successive round. The schedule is listed on your screen. As you can see, during the first round, all PNMs visit all sororities, but for the successive rounds, they will visit fewer chapters. So the process works like a funnel, with each PNM's choices being narrowed down each day. If a chapter doesn't invite a PNM for a particular round, it means they are not interested in her joining their organization, and she will not have the opportunity to join that group. She should instead focus on the groups that did invite her. The reason the process works is because PNMs must visit all the sororities that have invited them on a particular day, even if they're the ones that they listed lower on their preference lists. This gives the sororities more of a chance to convince PNMs that they are a good option for her. The final round of recruitment is called preference, and it's the most serious. After PNMs attend preference events, during which the sororities will make their final and emotional pitches to the PNMs will rank in preferential order the sororities they visited that night. They will do so using a binding agreement form that is used nationwide. Two very important notes about preference. First, national sorority policies dictate that the period immediately following preference events is called strict silence. PNMs may not talk to one another or to their peer counselors that night after they attend the preference events. They also may not talk to you. So if your daughter likes to talk things through with you before making a decision, we encourage you to spend some time talking with her about how she's feeling that afternoon, which is Saturday, January 14th, before she attends the events. The other important note is about that binding agreement that I mentioned. The agreement, which we explain thoroughly both during recruitment kickoff and on preference night, and which your daughter will initial several times to indicate her understanding, states that if she lists a sorority among her preferences and receives a bid or membership invitation to that sorority, she is bound to them until next January's recruitment. She doesn't have to join that sorority, but she may not join another Panhellenic sorority at Tulane for a year. Please note also that bid day, the day when students learn which sorority they've been matched to, is the day before the MLK holiday. The university will be closed that Monday for the holiday, so if you have post-recruitment questions, our staff will be available to answer them beginning on Tuesday, January 17th. As your daughter goes through recruitment or considers intake, she will likely ask your advice about how to decide which organization she's most interested in. The most important factor in determining this is the fit she feels and her comfort level with the women in that group. And that's something she won't know until recruitment or the informationals happen. This can be hard if someone in your family is an alumna of one of our organizations, but we really encourage you to let your daughter make her own decision about which group is best for her, especially because chapters of the same organization can be very different on different campuses, and even our chapters here at Tulane change over the years. The next factor to consider plays into the first, and that is how much the organization's values resonate with your daughter. All national sororities were founded on a set of guiding principles, and the members should be able to articulate both the values in themselves and how the chapter's activities reflect those values. Encourage your daughter to ask questions of the members that will help her determine the values that are important to each sorority. Finally, for those of you who are participating in Panhellenic recruitment, it's essential to understand that the process all of us across the country use is one called mutual selection. Mutual selection means that both the PNM and the sorority must agree that the decision for someone to join is mutually acceptable. Note that I didn't say that every PNM will get her first choice, or even her seventh choice, nor did I say that every chapter gets to take all the PNMs they're most interested in. Instead, mutual selection means that both parties are okay with the relationship, and that's often a hard distinction for our students on either side of the process to come to grips with. Many of our students are very used to being selected for things they want to do, whether that's a team, a role in a performance, or a scholarship. So not getting invited back to their top choice sororities during recruitment is sometimes tough for them to deal with. We are very experienced in working with students who experience disappointment during recruitment and helping them develop the resiliency it takes to move past that disappointment. But we ask that you help your daughter manage her expectations about the process in advance, talking with her over winter break about what her goals for joining a sorority are, and about the fact that not being invited back to a top choice will not negatively impact her time at Tulane. P&Ms tend to catastrophize when they aren't invited back to a chapter they have their heart set on. And while that's a totally understandable reaction in the moment, I assure you that each year we have hundreds of students who deal with the disappointment of not being invited back by a group they want. The vast majority of those continue in the recruitment process, join a sorority, and eventually realize that they wouldn't have been happy in the group they thought they wanted anyway. A few notes about Panhellenic recruitment. Tulane is not a campus that relies heavily on recommendations from alumni members. But if a close friend or family member would like to submit a recommendation on your daughter's behalf, she should go to the website of her national sorority and find the standard form the organization suggests. If that form is to be mailed rather than submitted online, the addresses for all the chapters are available on our website. We talk a lot with P&Ms about maximizing their options during Panhellenic recruitment. This means being polite during all recruitment events, even to women in the chapters they aren't that interested in, and keeping an open mind throughout the process. Though we can't guarantee that every student who participates in recruitment will receive a bid, I can tell you that those who don't get their heart set on one particular chapter are far more likely to receive one. Finally, detailed information about the schedule for recruitment and what your daughter should wear each day are available on our website. Probably one of the most important things I can tell you, certainly the most important about attire, is that she will be doing a lot of walking and standing during recruitment week. So we encourage you to try to convince her to wear shoes that are at least somewhat comfortable. While the overwhelming majority of students who want to join a sorority at Tulane are able to, sometimes it doesn't work out. The statistics from last year's Panhellenic recruitment are on your screen. A small percentage of those women who didn't complete recruitment were released from the process, meaning that at some point none of the chapters decided to invite them back. But the majority voluntarily withdrew from the process. Regardless, we want you to be aware of the resources that are available for all these women who do depart the process. Professional staff within our Department of Housing and Residence Life coordinate follow-up with each of the P&Ms who leave the Panhellenic recruitment process. Generally, that means that the student's resident advisor will check on her in person that same day. Depending on how the student reacts, the RA may also ask a professional staff member to check in as well. Additionally, we work with our colleagues in other student affairs departments to make sure other options for campus involvement are available shortly after recruitment. The Spring Activities Expo is scheduled for Friday, January 27th, and attending that is a great way to learn about other student organizations on campus that can fill the void if your daughter is having a hard time figuring out how not to exist in a sorority. And finally, it's important to know that not all Tulane students join sororities in the spring of their first year. If your daughter's ineligible to participate this year, or if she withdraws or is released, she can certainly go through recruitment next spring. Shifting gears a bit. For those of you whose students will join the Greek community, we want to spend some time talking about hazing prevention. The university's definition of hazing is on your screen. Students joining sororities should understand that their organizations can be held responsible for violating the hazing policy, even if the new members willingly participate in an activity that the university deems inappropriate. Experts have identified 3 general categories of hazing activities. The first is subtle hazing. This includes making new members perform tasks that older members don't have to perform, for example, cleaning up after a meal at the chapter house. Subtle hazing can also include things like making new members quote-unquote earn the right to wear organization insignia. The next category is harassment hazing. This may include assigning new members to perform pranks or wear silly clothing. The final type of hazing is violent hazing. This type includes some of the sensational acts you may hear about in media reports: kidnapping new members, physical abuse, paddling, and forced alcohol consumption. At Tulane, hazing among our sorority women is far less common than it is among our fraternity men. However, when it does occur, subtle hazing and harassment hazing are the most common forms. Pressure to consume alcohol is more common than actual forced drinking, but it's an issue nonetheless. One thing we really try to drill into the minds of our students is that there is a very slippery slope involved if they engage in lower order hazing. That would be the subtle or harassment types. They often don't know the physical and mental health histories of their new members. For example, pressured drinking can cause serious issues for a new member with a history of depression and anxiety or a history of alcoholism in her family. Another issue is that within an organization, different people can have very different views of what constitutes hazing. What seems harmless to some can seem completely inappropriate and dangerous to others. In the last 3 years, our Student Conduct Office has investigated 2 hazing cases involving sororities. One of those involved allegations of forced drinking, but the conduct staff did not receive enough information to be able to pursue charges against the sorority. The other happened in spring 2015, when our Alpha Epsilon Phi chapter pled responsible to violating the drug and hazing policies. The sorority was suspended and therefore totally dormant for the 2015-2016 academic year. However, they successfully completed the terms of their suspension, made wholesale changes to the way they operate, removed a great many of their members, and returned to active status this fall. They have a national staff member living on campus this year and supervising all their activities, and their current members are working hard to be a chapter we can all be proud of again. If at any point during your daughter's time in a sorority, you have questions about whether she or a friend in a fraternity or sorority is being hazed, there are several resources you can consult. Of course, you can always call and speak to a member of our staff. If you're uncomfortable doing that, you may file an online report at the website tulane.edu/concerns or leave a message on our hazing hotline at 504-862-3111. If you make an online report or call to ask a question, you can ask to remain anonymous, but I implore you to give us your contact information so we can contact you with follow-up questions. Parents are often concerned about reporting because they don't want their student to know who it was that they called, or they don't want their student to know that it was they who called. And as a parent myself, I completely understand that concern. However, I assure you that in my 7 years at Tulane, we have never revealed the source of a report about hazing. Nothing is more frustrating and concerning to us than receiving a report that something is happening that shouldn't be, but not having enough information to stop it. Finally, there's a great deal of information available online for parents who want to know more. A list of websites in addition to greek.tulane.edu is on your screen, and I encourage you to consult those. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have questions that were not answered by this tutorial, please feel free to contact us. We look forward to seeing your daughters in the spring.